YouTube, it's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, I had a final prediction for the highly anticipated undisputed showdown between two-time junior middleweight unified world champion superstar boxer Jermell Lions Only Charlo, or Jermell Ironman Charlo, and undefeated WBO Argentinian star boxer Brian Castano. With that said, I predicted that Jermell Charlo would make Brian Castano pay and stop him in the 5th round. In the 2nd round, it looked like I was going to be correct, or I was going to be proven correct. As he hurt Brian Castano, I thought, listen, it may end even quicker than I initially thought. And with that said, it didn't play out that way. Brian Castano, he made adjustments. He started to step on the gas. Brian Castano couldn't miss with the right hand. Jermell Charlo was uncomfortable with the pressure from Brian Castano. I completely thought that Jermell Charlo would be able to deal with the pressure of Brian Castano. I actually thought that the pressure from Brian Castano will work against him. Jermell Charlo, being technically sound, being very skilled, and having power, with such a size advantage. Jermell Charlo at 6 feet tall, Brian Castano at 5'7.5". Jermell Charlo with a 74-inch arm reach, Brian Castano with a 67.5-inch arm reach. So Jermell Charlo had nearly a 7-inch arm reach advantage with nearly a 4-inch height advantage over Brian Castano. And with the skills and the jab and the technical abilities, I thought that he would be able to keep Brian Castano at bay. I thought that he would be able to slow down his pressure. And the fact that I thought Jermell Charlo would be able to win the battle on the inside because he's bigger, stronger, and a better skilled boxer. Well, tonight proved to be wrong. He's not much better skill-wise than Brian Castano. Brian Castano, effective aggressiveness, is very, very skilled. It's very, very orchestrated. And I have to say, I completely underestimated Brian Castano's skill set. I completely underestimated Brian Castano's ring IQ. Now, there was some moments where you had in the 10th round, looked like Brian Castano was getting ready to get knocked out. But again, he weathered the storm with his ring IQ. He understood he needed to survive the round. And at times, he planted his feet, threw a hard punch just to occupy Jermell Charlo, just to get his attention, let him know his legs aren't fully there, aren't fully sturdy, but he still has power, and Jermell Charlo has to be cautious in making his way in. And it froze Jermell Charlo. He hurt Jermell Charlo a few times with hooks, with body punches, with overhand rights. You even had a legendary trainer, well-renowned trainer, 2-time trainer of the year, Derek James, telling Jermell Charlo, you need a knockout to get a victory here. You're going to need a knockout. Use your jab. Jermell Charlo wasn't comfortable with using his jab because Brian Castano was timing it, and he was going underneath it and then forcing his way into Jermell Charlo's chest. And Jermell Charlo had no answer for Brian Castano on the inside. It was at bay where he had the advantage, as we all expected, using his jab, doubling it up, and landing a straight right hand at times, and at times going to the body. But he just didn't do it often enough. So with that said, Brian Castano, I thought, won this fight. Now, one of the judges, I'm not opposed to a draw, but I thought Brian Castano won the fight. And the reason I'm not opposed to the draw is because Brian Castano did hurt Jermell Charlo, but Jermell Charlo visibly hurt Brian Castano more than Brian Castano hurt him. And that's going to play in the judges' hands. And the fact that there was some swing rounds in there that you could pick for Jermell. So I'm not opposed to a draw. I just thought that Jermell Charlo lost this fight. Oddly enough, when he lost the fight to Tony Harrison, I thought that he won that fight. But in this case, I thought that he lost. I thought Brian Castano won the fight. As I predicted, it would be a 5th round stoppage victory. But I completely underestimated Brian Castano's ability. I completely underestimated the adjustments. He made adjustments in this fight, okay? And he was the much smaller guy. You can completely see it looked like 2 different weight classes. But Brian Castano's ability to counterpunch. Now, Jermell Charlo's ability to counterpunch was effective. Both guys were effective with their counterpunching, okay? And you can see after the fight, Jermell Charlo, his twin brother, who is the undefeated 2-division world champion and WBC reigning middleweight world champion, they both seemed very relieved that it was a draw. They both thought that it could be a possibility that Brian Castano won. But one of the judges, now we had 114, that was the draw. And then we had another judge, 114, 113 for Brian Castano. And then we had another judge, 117 to 111 for Jermell Charlo. I don't know what fight he was watching, but he completely missed a good fight. I don't know how he was present. If Derrick James is in the corner saying that Jermell needs a knockout to be victorious, and Jermell Charlo, his twin brother who's singing ringside, stated, "Oh, this was a very close fight, a very tough fight, but we got the victory, hard-fought victory," then how did a judge see a landslide victory for Jermell Charlo? This is what's wrong with the sport of boxing. This hurts the sport of boxing, ultimately, okay? So with that said, I thought that Brian Castano won the fight. And I have to give kudos and stand corrected in how I view Brian Castano. I was completely wrong with my assessment of Brian Castano. I was completely wrong with the mistakes that Brian Castano made. Now, he did make mistakes that caused him to get hurt. The two times he was visibly badly hurt, he made those mistakes I was talking about. And Jermell Charlo, he may have threw 2 uppercuts this entire night. Even the announcers, Steve Harhood and Abner Mares, and they were calling for Jermell Charlo to use the uppercut. He never used it tonight. I predicted the night would end with a left hook, right uppercut. Now, in the second round, when he badly hurt Brian Castano, that was the left hook I was talking about. But he didn't follow it up with the right uppercut. He was throwing one punch at a time, okay? Whether that be the jab, whether that be the straight right hand, but he wasn't committing to anything. And I believe it was due to he was hesitant because of the counterpunch ability and the ability to work his way on the inside, calculated from Brian Castano. It made Jermell Charlo uncomfortable, more than I've ever seen him uncomfortable. Okay, now I saw him uncomfortable in the fight with Tony Harrison, both fights. Tony Harrison had a lot of moments in those fights, but obviously Jermell Charlo knocked out Tony Harrison in the second fight, and in the first fight, I thought that Jermell Charlo edged it out, but it was a very close fight. So with that said, I was super surprised, and I completely underestimated Brian Castano, okay, and his abilities. I just thought that Jermell Charlo's size, along with his skill set and his ring IQ, would be too much for Brian Castano. The jab was there; it was there all night. Again, when he used the jab and he was aggressive, that being Jermell Charlo, he was effective. And Brian Castano had trouble when he was aggressive, but he wasn't aggressive enough, and he wasn't using the jab enough. And it led me to believe that Brian Castano's counterpunch ability and his effective aggressiveness, it's not that he's just aggressive. He's not just a plodding forward guy. He is very calculated in his approach to work his way on the inside. He uses feints. He uses head movements, and that overhand right is very effective. I was very, very surprised with his abilities and what he was able to do effectively, being at such a size disadvantage, being that, I thought that Jermell Charlo was by far the better technically skilled boxer than Brian Castano, and I was completely wrong. Brian Castano, I thought, was more unorthodox in his last fights, the fight with Erislandy Lara, his few fights that he recently had. I thought, in those fights, I said that, he was unorthodox, he was a pressure fighter, but he was far more than that, okay? He's very technically sound in his approach to be aggressive, okay? More so, I thought the Lara fight, and the Teixeira fight, I thought that, it was more so of their inability to deal with his pressure, more so than the calculated pressure that he applies. But no, it's completely Brian Castano's ability and his technique to be able to apply the pressure, because he's always at such a size disadvantage. So the fight ended in a draw. Obviously, we're going to get a rematch because now we've still yet to have an undisputed 154-pounder. It's never happened in the history of sport of boxing. I'm expecting in the fall for us to get a rematch of this fight, and I absolutely cannot wait. I'm eager to see the adjustments Jermell Charlo makes because he seems more versatile, that he can make more adjustments. But I'm eager to see what adjustments Brian Castano can make going into the fight. Can't wait. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue. Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.